Hello, all you freedom-loving people. We have another long list of misused funds that were earmarked for Ukraine aid and a couple of RFK Jr.'s first successes. And today, some of the Epstein files were unsealed. Okay, let's get into it. And today, finally, the first batch of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein were unsealed. This came just hours after Attorney General Pam Bondi promised the release of the documents. However, it's still unclear what is in the documents since they have not been released publicly by the Justice Department.
A lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah, what you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for sure.
He sure did.
Conservative lawyers and commentators were spotted at the White House holding binders that read the Epstein Files Phase 1. Today, Rogan O'Hanley, who is known as DC Drano, wrote on X, "Today, I met with President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Kash Patel in the Oval Office. They handed me a binder copy of the Epstein Files. This is the most transparent administration in American history. The best part, this is just the beginning." Attorney General Bondi confirmed there are thousands more Epstein file documents being secretly held in the Southern District of New York, and they will be delivered to the DOJ in D.C. by February 28th. People will be going to jail for what they've done. According to O'Hanley, Attorney General Bondi recently learned that thousands of Epstein files are being secretly held in the Southern District of New York FBI office. Bondi has demanded that they be delivered to her by 8 a.m. tomorrow. And just before the first portion of the Epstein files was handed out, White House counsel Alina Habba claimed that with Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, there will be accountability.
Do you think by releasing information from these files, we are likely to see criminal actions being taken?
Absolutely.
Really?
I think it would be negligent for us not to. You have to hold individuals who are indeed rapists accountable. We have to have them tried, in my opinion. And I do believe in that. Nobody should be just dismissed. You have to have your time in court and your case will be heard. But to hide lists, to protect political friends, all of that, we don't have time for that.
Steak and Shake handed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. one of his first big achievements as U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services. The fast food chain is officially switching from vegetable oil to beef tallow for cooking fries in all restaurants across the country. Recently, the brand noted that they were already serving 100% beef tallow fries in Colorado, Florida, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Texas. The chain actually mentioned RFK Jr. in the announcement about the change. Steak and Shake wrote on X, by March 1st, all locations, fries will be RFK'd. Back in October, RFK wrote on X, fast food is part of American culture, but that doesn't mean it has to be unhealthy and that we can make better choices. Did you know that McDonald's used to use beef tallow to make their fries from 1940 until phasing it out in favor of seed oils in the 1990s? This switch was made because saturated animal fats were thought to be unhealthy. But we have since discovered that seed oils are one of the driving causes of the obesity epidemic. Beef tallow is beef fat rendered. According to some experts, it may be much healthier than cooking with other liquid oils and fats. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic noted that Just like butter and coconut oil, beef tallow is mostly saturated fat. However, liquid fats such as olive oil, peanut oil, and canola oil generally consist of unsaturated fats. The Mayo Clinic adds that some of the tallow's saturated fat doesn't appear to raise cholesterol levels in the same way that other saturated fats do. Moreover, beef tallow contains monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, which studies suggest may actually provide heart-healthy benefits. But there is still a split among doctors regarding this issue. While the American Heart Association says that there's no reason to avoid vegetable oil, scientists have found links between vegetable oils and obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and inflammatory bowel disease. And in another move by the HHS, the agency has halted a $240 million contract that was signed by the Biden administration to develop an oral COVID-19 vaccine. The contract, which has been paused for 90 days, is with the biotech company VaxArt. The project's freeze comes just before 10,000 people were scheduled to begin clinical trials for the oral vaccine on Monday. RFK Jr. and his team will review the initial study before deciding whether to terminate the contract or to allow it to continue. Kennedy said in a statement, "While it is crucial that the Department of Health and Human Services support pandemic preparedness, 4 years of the Biden administration's failed oversight have made it necessary to review agreements for vaccine production, including VaxArt's." Jeff Bezos has offered his clearest vision for the future of the Washington Post. The Washington Post will focus on the support and defense of personal liberties and free markets. This signals a major upcoming change to the newspaper's opinion page. Bezos said that the move was a response to the realities that must be faced in the digital age. He said there was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring to the reader's doorstep every morning a broad-based opinion section that sought to cover all views. Today, the internet does that job. He said that the Washington Post would support and defend two pillars: personal liberties and the free market. He said, "We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others." He emphasized that the necessary connection between freedom and morality, which he says are inextricably linked, are the two pillars of American success. Bezos wrote, "Our country did not get here by being typical. And a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion, and practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity." But the move prompted the resignation of the Post's opinion editor, David Shipley. Bezos said, "I offered David Shipley, whom I greatly admire, the opportunity to lead this new chapter, but after careful consideration, David decided to step away." During the 2024 election, Bezos caused a stir by announcing that the Washington Post would not endorse any candidate. The news outlet lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Regarding Shipley's departure, Bezos said, "I respect his decision. We'll be searching for a new opinion editor to own this new direction." The Post's chief executive and publisher William Lewis wrote in a staff email, "This is not about siding with any political party. This is about being crystal clear about what we stand for as a newspaper." On Wednesday, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts paused a lower court order that required the Trump administration to pay $2 billion in frozen foreign aid before the midnight deadline. The ruling came after the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court for an emergency order to block the U.S. Agency for International Development, the USAID, from having to pay out foreign aid. Now officials won't have to comply with the order of U.S. District Judge Amir Ali. And the claimants who sued the Trump administration for freezing aid from USAID will now have to respond before Friday noon. In January, President Trump froze billions of dollars of aid that was to be given out through USAID. Along with President Trump's order, many investigations started or continued to examine USAID. They are seeking to determine whether funds were being misused. But in some cases, USAID officials declined to cooperate. In one case, the Senate Doge Caucus started an investigation into documents related to U.S. tax dollars that were allegedly intended to help Ukraine combat the Russian invasion. However, reportedly, USAID officials repeatedly refused to allow the investigators who are working for Senator Joni Ernst, the Senate Doge Caucus chairman. Ernst first began investigating USAID back in November of 2023 with a letter to then USAID Administrator Samantha Power. And when the investigators were finally allowed to view the documents, it was allegedly under surveillance in a highly secure room at USAID headquarters, even though nothing USAID shared was classified. During their investigation, Iowa Republican investigators found millions of dollars of USAID programs being funneled into Ukraine for very questionable purposes using secret slush funds. The investigators claimed that funding that was allegedly intended to alleviate economic distress in the war-torn nation was spent on such frivolous activities as sending Ukrainian models and designers on junkets to New York City or to the London Fashion Week or to the Paris Fashion Week and even to South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. Among the secret slush funds was one fund that was providing $114,000 in order to fund purchases of a premium limited edition furniture line, and another $91,000 was used to finance a trade mission for a Scandinavian-style furniture line. Other USAID funding that was uncovered by the investigators included $148,000 for a pickle maker, $255,000 for a producer of organic tea and coffee, $104,000 for an artisanal fruit tea company, and $89,000 to support a Ukrainian vineyard. USAID funding also provided $300,000 each to a dog collar manufacturer and a company selling a pet tracking application. It also provided $161,000 for a purveyor of contemporary knitwear and allocated $126,000 for a photographer for fashion design publications. $84,000 was also provided to support a luxury bridal brand. The United States is experiencing an egg shortage. Recently, many families have seen the price of eggs skyrocket to $6, $7, $10 or more per dozen. So, have egg prices gone up enough for you? I'm afraid not. A new report released by the U.S. Department of Agriculture predicts that egg prices in the U.S. will rise 41.1% in 2025. That's more than double the 20% increase that the USDA predicted a month ago for the year. To put this into perspective, egg prices were already 53% higher in January than they were at the same time last year. And the Department of Agriculture is expected to say that on top of that, it's also going to rise another 40%. So are eggs really becoming a luxury item? Newly appointed Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins is surely not going to let that happen for long. She has vowed to restore stability to the egg market over the next 3 to 6 months. In an article in the Wall Street Journal, she described 5 measures that the Department of Agriculture is preparing to take in response to the egg shortage. Rollins said that the Department of Agriculture will invest $1 billion to curb bird flu so everyone can afford eggs again. The strategy of the Department of Agriculture is a 5-pronged approach. First, up to $500 million will be invested to help poultry farmers implement high standards of biosecurity. Secondly, additional financial assistance of up to $400 billion will be provided to farmers who were affected by avian flu. Third, the Department of Agriculture is exploring vaccines and treatments for use in egg-laying hens. The fourth measure is to take other action to lower egg prices. This will include removing unnecessary regulatory burdens on chicken farms and allowing families to more easily raise chickens in their own backyards. And the fifth step is that consideration should be given to temporary import measures in order to lower egg prices in the short term. Last year, Romania canceled the results of a general election. That's because the far-right populist presidential candidate, Calin Georgescu, was a surprise front-runner in this election. He received more than 20% of the vote, and the EU and the Romanian authorities declared the election results invalid on the grounds of Russian interference. Sound familiar? But it's not over yet. On Wednesday, Calin Georgescu was detained for questioning by Romania's top prosecutor. He was stopped during a traffic check in the capital, Bucharest, and he was later taken to the prosecutor's office for questioning. His supporters said that he was on his way to submit his candidacy for the May election. Authorities also raided 47 addresses of people and associates who were linked to Georgescu. Charges against them included false statements about the source of funds for campaigns, illegal possession of weapons, and starting or establishing organizations of a fascist, racist, or xenophobic character. Calin Georgescu's team posted a message on X on Wednesday asking, "Where is the democracy?" They hoped that U.S. President Trump would see the message. This is because Vice President J.D. Vance publicly endorsed Calin Georgescu in his Munich speech. The news did get the attention of President Trump's tech support, Elon Musk. Musk wrote, "They just arrested the person who won the most votes in the Romanian presidential election. This is messed up." Later in the day, the Romanian authorities released him, but some of the restrictions imposed on him included that he's not allowed to appear in public media or create social media accounts. As a campaign participant, this is tantamount to keeping him from speaking out. When he was released, the crowd erupted in excitement. Calin Georgescu was a prominent member of the United Romanian Party. He has reportedly questioned support for Ukraine and criticized the NATO missile defense system deployed in Romania as a diplomatic disgrace. This is contrary to the policy of the present Romanian government. Romania shares a 650-kilometer border with Ukraine. Since the outbreak of the Russian-Ukraine war, Romania has helped Ukraine export millions of tons of foodstuffs through the Black Sea port of Constanta, and they have provided military assistance such as the Patriot air defense system. And on a side note, Andrew and Tristan Tate are headed to Florida on a private jet after President Trump pressured the Romanian authorities to lift the travel ban, keeping them in Romania. It's been a while since we followed the situation in Korea. After the arrest of the president of South Korea, there were many impeachment debates in the courts. This Tuesday's debate was the final debate, and it lasted 8 hours, and the president himself made the final statement. He said that the declaration of emergency martial law on December 3rd last year was not the kind of martial law that used force to suppress the people in the past. Rather, it was a form of martial law to tell the people that the country is now facing a crisis. He stated that the purpose of martial law is to awaken the public. Yoon Suk-yeol said, "I can tell you clearly that the martial law is definitely not for my own sake. I am the president, and I am already at the highest point of power, and the easiest way for me is to finish my 5-year term in peace. See everyone and say good things, don't do anything dangerous, and don't make any hard choices, and then enjoy the courtesy of the presidency and live a comfortable retirement after I retire from office." Yoon Suk-yeol asked the judges of the Constitutional Court to think with common sense that it is absurd and untenable to accuse the president of ordering the arrests of the legislators. In reality, if legislators were to be arrested, the president would have prepared a plan for total control of the country by the military. But a number of commanders in charge of martial law affairs were still on vacation, having family dinners on the eve of the curfew. He pointed out by saying, on the day of the martial law, which was a normal weekday, there were 300 members of Parliament alone. If we add the assistance of the members and the parliamentary staff, the number of people is as high as thousands. But the total number of military personnel dispatched was only 280. The number of military personnel who entered the parliamentary venue was 106, and only 15 actually entered the main floor of the chamber. The allegation of arresting members of Parliament is totally unjustified. It is something that did not happen and could not have happened. And the martial law was declared over after 2 hours. How in the world can there be a coup d'etat that ends in 2 hours? Yoon Suk-yeol explained by saying, when you are in the position of president, you get a lot of information and see problems that people don't know about. Even if the country seems to be doing well on the surface, if you leave it alone, it will become a huge crisis like a frog being boiled in warm water. The national danger that Yoon Suk-yeol refers to is that external forces, including the DPRK, are cooperating with anti-national forces within Korea to violate the country's sovereignty. The external forces, including the DPRK he referred to, are the communist forces. Yoon Suk-yeol emphasized that he is willing to dialogue with any political force, left or right, for the good of the country and the people. But communism must be stopped because the communists have infiltrated Korea through various means. Korea should not compromise with these forces. It is necessary to prevent them from influencing the Korean political system and to defend freedom and democracy. Previously, Yoon's defense team issued a press release on January 21st stating that the 4 main reasons for Yoon's decision to declare martial law last month were not only the impeachment of government officials by the National Assembly and the budget cuts that paralyzed the country, but also the hybrid war between North Korea and the Chinese Communist Party against the Western camps, as well as the problems with election commission systems that could lead to CCP interference in the election. A press release alleged that there is a lack of understanding and vigilance of the communist hybrid war in Korea. For example, the list of military intelligence officers of THAAD, the Terminal High Altitude Defense System, was leaked to the CCP. And the Chinese, who claimed to be students, used a drone to take pictures of military installations, but all of them could not be effectively punished due to the opposition of the opposition party. The Korean media outlet Sky Daily reported that, according to a U.S. military intelligence source on January 16th, on the day of Korea's emergency martial law on December 3rd last year, Korea's martial law forces and U.S. troops conducted a joint operation, and they raided an election training institute. 99 Chinese agents who are suspected of interfering in the election were arrested and handed over to the U.S. military. The 99 Chinese spies have now been sent to a U.S. military base in Japan, and during their interrogation by the U.S. military, all of them confessed to the crime of election tampering. And recently, U.S. intelligence sources on the U.S. island of Saipan once again confirmed to reporters that the U.S. government will immediately take specific sanctions against the CCP after President Trump's election. As we have analyzed before, President Trump's series of foreign policies, including the coordination of the Russia-Ukraine peace talks and the restoration of normal diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Russia, are all aimed at isolating the CCP, dividing the China-Russia alliance, and finally focusing on the CCP. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that some of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.